you've mentioned obviously coming over to the Isle of Man. It's a very different place, I'm sure, to some of the other countries that you've worked in. And what you are involved with at the Engine House is entrepreneurship, starting up new businesses. How does the Isle of Man compare on that level to some of the other places that you've worked?
Well, I mean, the first thing, it's a neutral tax jurisdiction. It also has a government here by consensus, so that you actually feel like you have a voice into government. And that's important for business people to actually have that connection when they have things that they want to change or things that need to change for their industry. They can actually get in and say, well, this is what really needs to be done here. So it's a nice community, a nice business community. So if you add the neutral tax jurisdiction, the close working relationships that you can get on the island, and the fact that if you're bringing your international IP here, it's a very good base in order to commercialize and monetize your IP on an international basis.
And how successful have you been so far in attracting people to come here and work here then?
Well, we've been really quite successful so far more than we thought we would be. But we have attracted more larger concerns to the island, but we have also had a large number of smaller concerns, just 1 or 2 man bands type thing. And it's very interesting because I work with the entrepreneurial part. So when they come to they land into the Engine House, then they need some entrepreneurial advice, experience in order to change their business plans and make themselves more adaptable, and that's where I come in.
So just explain then, for those who missed the programme last time, what is the Engine House? Okay,
the Engine House is like a landing place. So you drive your engine in and park your engine there. And
great imagery.
Here we go. And then basically us engineers roll up and say, okay, so what is your business? Do you need some help with this, or have you thought about that? And we provide some entrepreneurial spirit to their business. They already are entrepreneurs, but a different facet and different ways of looking at things, and help them be successful. And I mean, the real drive behind the Engine House is the pillar of the economy that's digital and high technology. And with that pillar, we're trying to attract jobs and businesses to the island, especially if they have an international export focus.
It's interesting you say this, because I think there is that sort of perception that we are not attracting businesses here. You know, it's often discussed the idea that we need more people to come over here for the economy to make the island work successfully. But would you say that's unfair then?
I think that's unfair. I think there's quite a few businesses coming to the island now. I mean, I can name a few, but that are with us. Should I do that now? Or?
Go on, then, tell us about them.
All right. So one that's particularly close to my heart is the Waterbearer Network, which is a SVOD channel, subscription video on demand, that's going to be dedicated to the planet.
Is that sort of like, as in similar to sort of Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that?
It's like that. It's like Netflix, except it focuses only on factual content, which is 10% of the content that people see on Netflix is factual, and it is driven very much by the NGOs that we've contracted with. There's like about 120 to 130 NGOs that we have on the list. And we look at NGOs as eyeballs that are looking at the channel. We've signed up about 14 million so far, and we have a target of 50 million eyeballs by the end of the year. And we've also signed up more of the, thinking Norwegian in my mind here now, but the upper organs, like we're in the signing processes with the World Bank, the Vatican. We've signed up the WWF, Greenpeace, Prince Harry's Trust, I think it's called Tusk. And the idea behind that is that they are NGOs that are dedicated in order to improving the planet. And you have an SVOD channel. And the difference between this SVOD channel and others is it's interactive. So once you're on the channel, it's broadcast 24/7. But you can also, if you're a premium member of it, you can be interactive. So you get the content coming up, you're watching it, and you say, well, this is a great campaign. So you can click on it and communicate with the head scientist or the campaign manager, right? Or you can share it with your friends on social media. Say, look, this is what I donated to, and here's what they're actually doing. But the other side of that is that it's connecting communities, because there's two sides. There's the NGO that's providing the campaign at a certain demographic location, right? Then there is the people or the country or the area that's receiving it. And you could go to the middle of Africa or the middle of South America now, and in the middle of a village that's just mud huts, but somebody in that village is going to have a smartphone, you know? And that's only going to increase with this new 5G drive. But so what's happening there, the connection comes is that, okay, here's the NGO, they're there doing the campaign. The people that are receiving the campaign can actually see themselves in the story. And that's how you get these connections coming up. You get the people receiving, the company receiving, and the people that are doing it, get them connected, and it makes it much easier for the campaign itself, because they won't have as much local resistance if they don't understand what they're doing. So I think it's a really great way to connect communities as well.
It does sound like it would be. I mean, how successful have you actually been at that sort of connection so far? Have you seen some real results?
Well, this is the thing. We're still building the architecture. So we're not intending to launch until sometime early next year. And our first launch will be a test launch in the Netherlands, or Holland, you call it in English. Yeah. Here's my Norwegian coming out again.
We should say that Eric has literally just come back from Norway, which is why you're fluent, aren't you, in Norwegian? So that's sort of where your head is at.
My head's
right
going
now.
Norwegian all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so what does that mean, though, practically, and, sort of from a financial point of view or from an economy point of view, for the Isle of Man to have that sort of thing based here?
Well, the Waterbearer Network has many legs to it. So you have the actual visual part, which is the programs, etc., that are coming through. But you also have other connections in like events for music or events, sports. And that means, and also the important one for the island, of course, is the travel function. So you can actually click and say, there's a campaign I want to be a part of. So you click on it, and the travel agency of the Waterbearer will get you in the story by providing your travel, or providing a way for you to travel there. And that's quite a bit of jobs for the island. I mean, the Waterbearer Network for the island, fully up and going, is around 500 jobs.
Fantastic. That is wonderful. And that in itself, because I was going to say initially when you first started talking about it, it sounds a little bit like the National Geographic channel, but from what you're saying, it's adding an entirely different level, because you've got the interaction element and, like you say, the sort of the response that people will have, and then they can act on it.
Yeah, and it's the connection to the NGOs that's important, because if you think they might say, well, we've really actually failed on one aspect of getting our message across, and that is the visualization. And that is where the Waterbearer channel actually brings in. We have contractual relations with the NGOs. It's not just put your logo up on the channel. There's a contractual relation there that we will go out and film their campaigns, receive content from their campaigns and edit it and put it on the channel, that type of thing. And that's where the NGOs think they've actually failed in the past, is they don't get the visuals. I mean, when you donate to a large NGO, you sometimes get a little fuzzy animal, and you get at the end of the year, you get the financial results. But this is totally different. You get to actually see the campaign, be part of the story, and they love it.
Which is good, because there's often that concern, isn't there, when people are donating to places like this, is how sure you can be of the sort of ethical background when you are putting your money into places like this.
But I don't want people to misunderstand either. I mean, the Waterbearer Network is a profit for purpose corporation. And so with not much profit, you don't have much purpose. So the more profit, more purpose you have.
Oh, he's good at this, isn't he? It is fascinating stuff, and obviously we're talking about the Engine House. I should say I've just had a message from Chris Kiswick, who was on earlier this week, talking about plastics, and he was saying, I'm listening to the show from the Engine House as I'm working from here today. Shared a desk with Mike Cooley, as in Mindful Mike, as he describes him, sharing ideas with some incredible people based here in a welcoming environment. That's another fantastic side to the Engine House, isn't it? I mean, I was reading an article that Shelley Langan had written about it. Saying that by choosing the right working space, you can surround yourself with the right vibes and tribes, and that sounds like a really healthy working environment, especially for creative people. Yeah,
it is, and that's part of it. Is you have people around you that are creative, and we do creative things. We have creative events all week long. Like, for example, we have Mike Cooley with mindfulness coming, workshops for that. We've had mosaic workshops. And even tonight I have to read off my notes here, of course. We have a life less plastic, are having the pre-meeting there.
That's with Chris, who was on the other day. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Lydia Bavar as well. And so the nature of the creative industries, I mean, it's brave to go into that industry, I think, isn't it, really? Because I think it's not always seen as particularly stable or reliable. And of course, it's just been in the news again recently, the controversy over the government putting investment into film and where that led. How can you convince people that it is a good industry and that it's worth it and that it's value to the community?
Well, see, that's the creative and the media. The big film industry has changed a lot. There's a new paradigm out there, and these smaller companies, indies we call them, indie producers, they do their budgets based over a 1 or 2 year payback. Whereas when you had the big films coming in before, you had very large budgets that had a payout over 10, 15 years. So the way you can convince people is that these are business plans coming in for their ventures are a 1 or 2 year payouts now. So you can see your money coming back as an investor at a much faster clip and much more profitable in that way. Because the upside of that is it will run for the next 10 or 15 years. The content doesn't disappear. But you're only basing your investment on a 1 or 2 year scenario. Much more controllable, much more, you can see where your money's going to come back in a short space of time. And you can deal with any mitigations that you have to do in order to make that happen in a short time space.